What's up, everyone? It's Greg Tastic here, and today I wanted to release one of the first videos in what I'm hoping is going to be a series of videos. And the series is going to be titled Remember That Time. And basically, what we're going to do is look back at memories I have of growing up in video games and just kind of reflect on how things were back then and compare it to how things are now. Because believe me, it's changed. It's changed a lot. Like, you wouldn't even believe. So, anyway, let's get into it. The first video is going to be titled Remember That Time I Was One of the First Members of Xbox Live. So, if you're 18 years or younger, Xbox Live was around when you were born, which is crazy to think about because I lived a long time of my life without anything like it. Now, admittingly, if you were like a PC player, you had some of these features before the time of the consoles. But around this era of like 2001, 2002, 2003, consoles started getting like their online services running. And we could argue about it. If you're like me and you're a PS2 fan and you think PS2 was the shit and you think SOCOM's the best game you ever played or whatever, I don't give. Go down in the comments and we can argue about it. But back then, 20 years ago, and today, Xbox Live has always led the way as far as online networks on consoles. Yes, you have to pay for it, or had to pay for it. I guess you don't have to anymore. Yes, PCs have all those features and more for free. But as far as consoles are concerned, even like the argument used to be back then. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but since I'm on my rant, the argument used to be back then, oh, PS2 online is free. And you had to pay $50 a year for Xbox Live. But Xbox Live offered all this stuff that PS2 couldn't even come close to. You could even argue that PS3 couldn't come close to, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to relish in my memories for a bit and tell you how I became one of the first members of Xbox Live. And then if I feel like talking about all the features and all that, we'll get to that in a second. But let's go back to, I would say, October, November 2002. We're going to go back to October, November 2002. Greg Tastic here was a young 13-year-old. I know I still look quite young, and if you're doing the math in your head, Greg Tastic was 13 in 2002. That means he's X in 2021. I know. You're sitting there like, you look so good for your age, and I understand that. But that's not the point of this video. The point is, Greg Tastic in October, November 2002 heard that there was going to be online capabilities for the Xbox. The Xbox came out, it had an Ethernet port in the back, but for what? For Xbox Live. I understand PC gamers. I could do that in 1993. I've been doing deathmatch and Quake and Dooms and all right. I didn't. My parents did. My parents bought me consoles and they said, "Listen, Gregory, the consoles are for your little playing and your entertainment, and the computer is for doing schoolwork and research and blah, blah, blah." I was not allowed to game on my computer, and even if I was, the specs were not good enough to game on anything decent. So poor Gregory, I'm sorry, Greg Tastic, had to deal with being a console plebeian and didn't get true online gaming until 2002 with Xbox and Xbox Live. But once I did find out that it was coming out, I was ecstatic. A young Greg Tastic is sitting there and telling his mom about Xbox Live, and she's getting it. And, I wanted it day one. I wanted to be on there day one, but I couldn't. So I'm like, Mom, 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 like Stewie Griffin from Family Guy. Mom, 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 Xbox Live. And for some reason, off the top of my head, I can't remember what games were on Xbox Live day one, but for me it was Ghost Recon. Mom, I need Xbox Live. Mom, I need Ghost Recon so I could play that online. I never even played a Tom Clancy game before. I just needed it, wanted it. I don't know why. So, Mom, the lovely woman that she is, gives in to me. And I promise you, sometime in November, if it wasn't November 15th, it was very close. We go to Target, we get the Xbox Live Starter Kit, $50. We get Ghost Recon, $50. So I think the starter kit was 50, and it gave you. Maybe I'm wrong about the price because I know Xbox Live was 50. I didn't buy it. It was a gift, but I know Xbox Live was 50 for a year at the time. I just know that I got a year worth on the starter kit, so maybe the starter kit was more like 60 or 70 because I know it came with the headset and it came with maybe it was like 60, 50 or 60. I don't know because you get the 50 and then it came with a headset. So you're really just paying for the headset. And considering they're trying to start this network up from scratch and get people to pay $50 a year, like, hello, here's where we're starting to make money if we're Microsoft and still making ton of money based off of Xbox Live or Gamer Pass or whatever. Like they've been doing their thing for 20 years. I forget how much it was, but we bought the Xbox Live starter kit with a 12-month membership, and we bought Ghost Recon. And the sad part is, it was like a birthday Christmas gift. My birthday is on the 21st. Christmas is obviously the 25th, so we bought it that day, but I was going to have to wait a month to actually get it. And it was a long month, but what can you do? Eventually, December rolls around, and I get my gift that I knew was coming for a month. And the funny part is like, most kids have their video games in their room, but my dad had an office. My room was upstairs at the time. My dad had an office downstairs, and that's where we had two computers. It's crazy. Like we had two computers. I don't ask me why. Next to each other in his office, he had a desk. We had a computer here, computer there, and then in the other corner, we hooked up the Xbox with a TV. And basically, the only reason we hooked it up in the office and not my room is because networking at the time, it's not like there was no Wi-Fi. Kids, I need you to listen to me. I hope I'm not a good actor. I'm not good. I need you to listen to me. And I hope this is like really getting to you. Kids, there was no Wi-Fi. There was no Wi-Fi back then. I don't know when Wi-Fi came around, but you were hardwired to everything. So the modem and the router was in the we did have, since like the late 90s, we had cable Comcast internet, but the modem and the router was in the office. And eventually later, like a few years later, I did get my dad to buy some long ass Ethernet cord and put it upstairs into the room. But that was a couple of years later. At that time, when I first got it, it's like, Greg Tastic. My dad's name is Greg too, so he said, Greg Tastic, the Xbox is gonna be in the office, and that's it, because I'm not like, the wire only goes so far. So you're gonna have the Xbox in the office, computer. And I played Xbox religiously. I played so much Xbox online, it was crazy. It was like it was crazy. Because here's the thing. You go from playing by yourself, or if you want to play with someone else, you have to have them come over and sit next to you and split screen, whichever way you want to split the screen. To now you could, Ghost Recon, for example, had a campaign. You could get people together in your party and play a campaign. You could all play the story of the game. Not that it's the best story ever in Ghost Recon, but you could play the story of the game online everybody's in a different house and you're together talking on the microphone. And then online there was like deathmatch. There was something called terrorist hunt, which like I'm not a competitive online gamer, so I would get online. I would play campaign with people, and I would play terrorist death hunt or whatever, terrorist hunt, whatever it was called. It was like they would throw like 60 enemies on the map, and you had to kill them all. And when you killed them all, you won. A lot of people don't have microphones when they play on live, or they have parties. Like there wasn't parties. There was no like dashboard back then. You were in the game or out of the game. So there was like a dashboard, but it was only for when you're out of the game. So you could have parties, but you had to be not inside of a game, or you were in the game and you were partied up like with whoever you were playing with. So you would go into games back then, and most people had mics, and like it was just like for the first year I had Xbox Live, none of my friends had it. I had a bunch of friends though, and it was just like people I just randomly met online. Like, and you can't even, you kind of sort of can still do that these days, but back then it's like you were thrown into a game with people, and you had to talk to them, or I guess you could not have your headset in, but if you wanted to be good at the game and cooperate with your teammates, you had to talk to them. So you made friends, just like online friends. And it's crazy because even in the 360 days, there was a lot of that, a lot of like going into a game. Because I think like the party chat came like somewhere in the middle of the 360 era. So when the 360 first came out and the OG Xbox, there was a lot of you get thrown into a game. Look, you play Halo 2, you get thrown into a game with people, and you're just talking shit to the enemies, talking shit to your teammates. Like I used to be a notorious shit talker, even to the people who I got teamed up with. Like me and my friend got teamed up with someone and they weren't good. We just, you fucking suck. What the fuck are you doing? You're making us lose. Like it was crazy. It was a different time, but it was fun. And I used to argue with people back in the day because there was like people. I mean, if you were a GameCube, Nintendo's always been on their own thing, but it was mostly between PS2 and Xbox. And like the PS2 people would be like, "Oh, well, we get our stuff for free," but it wasn't as good. And Sony, you could say whatever you want. PS3, PS4, Xbox has had the online console network thing down on pat, on lock for its whole existence. Like, so I'm not gonna get ahead of myself and start talking about more current times, but back then, you could add a friend. I could play with someone in Ghost Recon and say, "Oh, you're cool. Let's be friends." And then on my dashboard, I could see them as my friend and I could join the game they're in if they're in a different game. Whereas Sony, it was like, oh, you all have to be a part of this little specific game, and it wasn't like a platform wide type of thing. So it was just different. Um, and I remember I've been through so many different gamer tags. Don't ask me why. Like I was a dumb kid and I would just change gamer tags or I would change accounts for crazy reasons, especially once I started like that weird phase in high school where like you're making your own money. So I was paying for Xbox Live myself and I would just have I don't know how to explain it cuz like I regret it because like Xbox I guess keeps track of how many years you were on the live service, and I was there since not day one but the second month. And I remember my original gamer tag was junior fan because I was like a big Ken Griffey Jr. fan, and that was like my handle on online for a lot of stuff. My email, like Xbox Live, Junior fan, and for some reason I just dropped it eventually, and I started messing around with different names. And then eventually I got to Gregtastic, which I try and use as much as possible, but it's not always possible. Sometimes, when you have it, like the crazy thing is like when you have an online name, sometimes you got to throw numbers in there. I hate throwing numbers in. So like Gregtastic, if I can't get that, I'll throw a 1 as a I or stuff like that. And then the thing is like when you're growing up, you always want to talk about what your parents don't do for you or like what your parents don't get you. And then sometimes as you get older, you appreciate things like I had Xbox Live. Like I never felt like the kid who had the newest not tools, but the newest gimmicks or the newest things on day one. But I didn't have Xbox Live on day one, but my mom bought me Xbox Live on day one. We had cable internet because you couldn't. I don't think you could do Xbox Live on like dial up, but we had cable internet at home to support doing Xbox Live. For however many years before I got my first job, my parents were paying $50 a year for me to be on Xbox Live. And like sometimes I'm like, how did I even convince my parents to do that? Like, oh yeah, can you please pay $50 a year for me to play Xbox with my friends? Like you feel almost spoiled at times when like oh, I never had this console on day one, or I never had this game day one. But every once in a while, things align for you and you get it on day one. So, I don't know, guys. I know that this might not be the most focused video. I'm going to try and go back and edit it a little bit to get it kind of in line. But it's just, for me, a lot of good memories. And, like, it's crazy. Like, the crazy part to me is just thinking about how, like, kids these days, I'm about to sound old and I hate that. But the younger generation these days just take for granted like stuff like all this online networking and friends and being able to communicate with people where I don't think I'm that old. Like you could do the math, I'm not going to do it for you, but that was not a thing when I first started gaming. But this is just going to be the first video of many, and if this wasn't like the history in depth of Xbox Live, it wasn't meant to be. It's just meant to be videos looking back on times that spark interest in me and get like discussion going and have a good time. So guys, if you like the video, if you are interested in the series going forward, let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't like, still subscribe, still comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Hey kids, I just wanted to add something at the end here in case you are too young to know what dial-up is. When I say we had cable internet, that's basically people today might think they have Wi-Fi, like oh I have wireless internet. You don't have wireless internet. You have cable internet or fiber optic internet that brings a signal into your house and then the router makes it Wi-Fi. Dial-up is basically you guys know because most people don't even have dedicated phone lines anymore. But if you've seen like a business or at your house, you have a dedicated phone line. It's like it's kind of like the thing that goes into the back of your modem, but it's smaller and it's for your phone signal. Basically, people used to get their I'm trying not to laugh because it's not funny. People used to, because I was in that generation. I just never had it because my dad was like, I'm not occupying my phone line with this. We're gonna pay for the good stuff. But people used to get their internet through their phone line. So like the line that brought the connection to their phone would bring internet. So here's the crazy thing. One, it was super slow. And two, you couldn't use your phone while you were, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe there was different iterations of it, but you couldn't connect your phone. I mean, you couldn't use your phone while the internet was connected to the dial-up. So like you were getting the internet connection at this slow ass speed through your phone line, and you couldn't even use your phone. and that's like what AOL was. And if you ever I feel so old. It's not fair. If you ever hear like those sounds where it's like and it's like trying to connect to the internet, like I don't know if people know about that anymore. That's like the dial up trying to connect. So yeah, if you don't know what dial up is, thank God you don't, but now you do.